I'm Bridget Wall, Consulting, and we are working on the project team to provide a community engagement for the Heritage Park redevelopment. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I'd like to welcome you here. For those of you who have not been to the facilities before, if I can have your attention, please. So I want to let everyone know that the restroom is out this door and then to your right. We have food in the back. Please help yourself to it. And again, just want to welcome everyone. You will hear from Eva Swenson, who's with BOWAL a little bit later, and she will kick off some of our community engagement agreements as we proceed with the meeting. But at this time, I would like to turn it over to the Executive Director for the Raleigh Housing Authority, Mr. Ashley Moore Johnson.
Thank you. Thanks for the promotion to Executive Director. They call me Chief Executive Officer. I don't know what the difference is, but thank you for being here. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Housing Authority. Thank you especially for those of you who not just been part of this process this week, but since June of last year, when we started meeting, and tonight is a milestone culminating in a master plan concept or options for a master plan concept. So it's been a long time, and you have been generous with your time, so I want to thank you for that. One of the things that I just want to talk about very briefly, but most importantly, is about the vision for the future of Heritage Park. Heritage Park will be a vibrant and healthy place to live and to be. There are 5 elements to this vision. One is the element of housing. As you know, housing has become far more expensive and costly, and there is a need for more housing. And so housing is a core part of this plan and core part of this vision. So we will create more housing, especially quality, affordable housing. Secondly, this community will be a walkable community, where people can walk and to services and amenities in Heritage Park and adjacent to Heritage Park. So whether it is support services, whether it is to childcare or preschool or small retail that they want to access, residents will be able to walk. Thirdly, we want Heritage Park to be connected to the broader community, not just physically, but definitely physically. Heritage Park is physically isolated. There's one way in and there's one way out, and it's kind of tucked between some very busy streets. So we want Heritage Park to be connected physically to the broader community, but socially, economically, and digitally. Fourth, Heritage Park will become a diverse community socially, culturally, and economically. And then lastly, and very importantly, Heritage Park will be a safe place where people will feel safe walking in their neighborhood, be they inside their homes or walking in the neighborhood. It will be a safe place to live and to be. So that is the vision that we have for Heritage Park that has developed over the last 7 months. So I've been handed just a piece of paper to welcome and recognize somebody, Yvonne Holly.
Yeah.
Where is Yvonne Holly Lewis? Thank you for being here. She's a
Here.
for North Carolina.
Turn the Bluetooth off on that.
So, and a community organizer, thanks for being here, and thanks for all of you for coming out tonight. Thank you.
Good evening again, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Yes, no? All right, can you hear me better now? Perfect. My name is Senior Swinson, and I am with BL Wall Consulting, as Bridget shared. And one of the things that, again, to sort of underscore, emphasize is that community is important. And that's what we are really, really trying to emphasize and communicate. So in order to create community tonight, I'm gonna need your participation. I'm gonna ask you all to stand up wherever you are. You're gonna need a little space. Okay, I see you all looking at me like, I gotta stand up and you're gonna get back to your food. I promise you, promise you, I promise you. So give yourself a little space. You can stand in front of your table, or you can stand behind your table, on the side, wherever you like to. So this is an opportunity for us to build community, but it's also an opportunity for us to kind of assess where we are now, where we started and where we are now. So I'm just gonna call out some things, and I just want you all to sort of indulge me. All right, we gonna do that? Yes, let's do this. All right, so here we go. I want you to give me one hop, if you were a little bit apprehensive about this process back in summer of 2023. So if you were a little bit apprehensive about all of this, just give me one hop. All right, so give me one hop if you were a little apprehensive about us last year. All right. So slide to the left if you attended at least 2 meetings. Slide to the left. All right. Slide to the right if the voices of the residents were heard. If you think the voices of the residents were heard, slide to the right. All right. Now, crisscross, if you were like, I got some questions. I got some questions, but those questions have been answered for me now. So crisscross. All right. Now, I'm not gonna ask you how low you can go. I'm not gonna ask you how low you can go. But everybody clap your hands if you're excited to see the future of Heritage Barn. All right, way to go. All right, thank you all. Thank you all. Have a seat. Thanks for being excited about what's gonna happen next with Heritage Park. So,
And did y'all see what Ingrid did? Who just tell me what song that was? That was a cha-cha slide. Thank you, Ingrid.
you're welcome, you're welcome. So, as we move into the evening, this is an important time. So I hope that even if someone that you know couldn't be here tonight, that you will be their voice, that you will share the information with them and say, hey, here's what I learned. These are the questions that they ask, and here's how you can get more information. And in order for us to be able to do that, we want to be able to create, again, that space of community where voices are heard and where we kind of center things that are on our minds. So I want to just share some of the community agreements that we've been using over the past almost year now. I'll say maybe seven months. And just to underscore these things, these are general community agreements about how we want to engage with each other. So, you know, we all know a lot. We don't know everything, but together we know a lot. There are times when we have a lot of wonderings and questions come up. What I call sometimes the word on the street can come up and you're like, I don't even know. So instead of making a judgment about what you hear, turn that judgment into wonder. Ask a question, ask many questions, because this is the opportunity for you to do that. We all have had different experiences, different lived experiences, different experiences with housing, different experiences being members of the community. So speak your truth and allow others to speak theirs. Create the space for others to be able to do that. We want you to be present in the conversation. So if you need to use your phone, feel free to step out, because again, we want to make sure that we're present with this. If you recognize that you're doing a lot of talking, then I'm going to ask you to kind of lean out a little bit, because sometimes people are apprehensive to share their voices if they feel the conversation is being led by one or two people. But if you know you're the kind of person who tends to not raise their voice or share, I want you to lean in. I want to hear your voice. We want to hear all of your voices. We want to make sure that at 8:30, we're ending our meeting, but people will still be available to answer questions for you. And as you are thinking about and participating tonight, listen with the ear of understanding. I want to understand what is happening. So again, that kind of goes back to turning judgment into wonder. So even when you are posing questions, you might say, I wonder if, or I wonder how this might occur. And then keep in mind, nobody in here is perfect, but we're all human. And sometimes people's voices might shake when they are speaking their truth. Or sometimes people may not articulate as clearly as you would like for them to. But that should not keep us from recognizing the humanity in the room, the humanity of the people here. Any questions? Can we get agreement then on that? Just a head nod, thumbs up. Thank you. So I'm going to turn things over to get us started in the real bulk of our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So I don't have any hopping or clapping. Hopefully, maybe we'll get the clap. But I wanted to talk about what we can expect tonight. Ingrid gave us some good guidelines about respecting time, so we're going to try to keep to a schedule to get through a lot of exciting information. But I wanted to thank some people first. First, thanks RHA, Executive Officer Ashley, Pleasant, her team, Katie, the whole team, for hosting us here and hosting us at Heritage Park all week. Thank you. And for engaging and bringing us all together in this effort. RHA's partners on the development side, Brimstore, we have Peter here and Sarah as well. We have the entire Valley Raised leadership team with Rel Midget and Pavel Moten and CJ Mann. Thank you for coming out and keeping us together. And then I wanted to thank the planning and community engagement team. So how engaged and how activating and inspiring Bridget and Ingrid can be, Vanessa and the whole team that's keeping us fed. Tom Liebel from Mosley and his team, and then my team from Cody Gallison Partners, if we could just get a raise of hands of those folks. So wanted to thank all of them. I mostly want to thank you for coming out and participating, for, as Ingrid said, speaking your truth. And hopefully we have heard that, and my hope is that we'll see that reflected in what we're looking at. So in that spirit, we're going to recap some of the things that we heard. We did this on Monday night. We did this on Tuesday night. We have heard more information and feedback. We're going to give a synopsis of that. And then tonight's really about celebrating and honoring that listening with our response. So what is the design response? And we'll talk about some of the drawings that we'll be looking at. We'll show you some of those drawings and options for the site plans that talk about different opportunities and maybe some different challenges, and then give you an idea of what some of the place can really feel like. So not these abstract kind of plans. So that I want to get through by 7:30, so a little bit less than a half an hour. And then we're going to have questions and answers, as we have been doing all along, again, to continuing the listening. We're going to do that in the format of questions from the floor and answer them from up here. But we want to keep that time period a little bit small, that's 7:30 to 7:45. We'll do questions and answers in what I call sort of that formal, way. So that we can all hear that. And then from 7:45, what we really want to do is invite people up to look at the drawings and talk to us kind of one-on-one or in groups. Some of these drawings are going to be hard to see detail if you're sitting way in the back. Maybe there are questions that you would have coming up and looking at it. So we really want that to be the bulk of the feedback time. 7:45, we'll start that. And then at 8:15, we'll kind of see where we are, and that's when we'll do the wrap. Right? I also wanted to thank and acknowledge the participants that are joining us online. We did this on Monday night and Tuesday night with some success. I understand there are even more people joining us this evening. So that's great. And in that format, you have the opportunity to give us questions in the chat. We got a couple of questions, I guess it might have been Monday night or Tuesday night, that have been answered on the website. We'd like to engage more in the questions and answers tonight. So at the Q&A period, we'll sort of see what that chat is. And at 8:15, those questions that we can answer immediately, we'll do then. And the ones that we can't will be, again, get answers within 24 hours. Okay, so those are some of the questions. Make sense? So here we are, we've been here all week. This is the schedule that we've shown on Monday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night. We've had it on the boards. We've been here to listen and get feedback. Thank you for all the folks who come by and see us. These are folks from city agencies. These are folks from the stakeholder groups and housing activists and education activists and service providers and most of all. So thank you for that drop. Here we are on Thursday evening with kind of the conclusions of the week with the top. And back to kind of what we've heard, right? So we've heard these points that we went over on Monday night and Tuesday night, but I want to reiterate them. We've heard a lot about the right to return. There are 122 families at Heritage Park now. 122 families that are there now need the opportunity to come back and be taken care of in the quality housing, walkable neighborhood, safe neighborhood, connected neighborhood that we're talking about. So 122 current residents come first. Even more than that, there are more affordable housing options that should be available to folks who are on our HA wait list, who are looking in Raleigh for affordable housing. That it's not just about the housing, that services and amenities and business opportunities and economic development opportunities, a place for job training, a place to open small businesses and grow that and be part of the community. Public spaces, safe green spaces. And the kinds of amenities that you would get in a brand new home that you would expect in 2024, right? So storage space was something we talked a lot about with residents, washers and dryers in the unit, dishwashers that were all of the things that you would expect in a contemporary home today. And then there are some concerns. There's concern about displacement. Am I going to be forced out? This concern about gentrification. Are other people going to come in and force me out? And this is tied back to the right to return. Again, 122 homes, houses, and families at Heritage Park now with the opportunity to come back in the new. And that there's a range of affordability, so taking care of very low income folks. And even as those very low income folks have the opportunity to better themselves, they're not forced out of the neighborhood too. By doing more than 122 homes, we can offer that opportunity for even more affordable housing and have a range. That it's a safe and secure neighborhood, and that a loss of connection to the community. This can go back even to the 1960s and urban renewal in the fourth ward, that is a shared concern. So we have heard that, and we are reflecting that in what we've designed. This is also, and those are things that we heard going back even to the summer, to our June meetings. This week, we distilled this down to some additional things that we heard, but they're all related to the vision, goals, and to what we heard previously. So I'd just like to read these if I could before we get into the responses. So, Heritage Park will connect with downtown and it will maintain its unique identity. So as opposed to being isolated, it will be connected, but it will have its own unique identity that it has today and will continue. The Heritage Park will acknowledge and honor its history and the history of the fourth ward. So not trying to gloss over any of the challenges that we've had, but also celebrating the success of celebrating the history and cultural history of the neighborhood. Heritage Park will work with the challenges of the site, and that includes technical things like existing utilities and the hills on Heritage Park. But what we're trying to do is take those challenges and turn those challenges into opportunities. The development team, Raleigh Rays, Crenshaw, RHA, are committed to providing more housing options. There's 22 families, more affordable housing options than that, replacing the existing 122 homes with new affordable housing with 122 and adding more affordable housing. The development team will also partner with others for support and to provide spaces for the things that aren't the homes, the things that we talked about in the other kind of group of themes. So small business spaces, but service spaces, daycare spaces, the amenities, the community room spaces that we talked about. And Heritage Park will have updated homes with the amenities that I was just talking about. No storage that you don't see in the homes today, that enhances comfort, convenience, and a healthy home, healthy well-being. So those are what we heard. So how are we responding? This is really the bulk of what we want to talk about tonight. This is our response. So we're going to look at some site plan options and some placemaking. So a little bit about the site plans that you're going to look at. What is a site plan? A site plan is just a drawing about how buildings sit on a place and how they start to make a place out of that piece of it, right? We might talk about blocks, and those are the blocks that are defined by streets around them, and have fronts and identities to those streets. A node might be a place where certain activity is concentrated. So is there a place where the shops are happening? It's kind of a commercial node. Is there a place where the daycare and the community spaces are happening? And does that start to be a node? And these are color coded. The different kinds of homes, apartments will be in sort of a darker color. The kind of family houses, meaning there's less shared roof and floor and wall, show up in yellow. Parks and open spaces, place for active recreation and just kind of hanging out productively. Recreation is in green and open spaces. You'll see the red in retail and the community spaces, so the kind of amenities and daycare and other support services in kind of a bluish purple. Okay. Here we go. This is Heritage Park today. South Street on the north edge, Saunders on the west, Dorothea coming through, NLP to the south, and the Dawson, Dell, and a couple of streets there on the east. 122 homes you see in the odd number buildings and the even number buildings. You all know well. We're there all week in the community center. Again, thank you for hosting us there. What could Heritage Park start to look like in some new plan options? So we're going to look at 3 options, and they get progressively kind of more ambitious about how much more housing can we provide How much more amenity space can we provide? How much more, park space can we provide? So again, the sort of peach color are apartment buildings. The yellow are the family type homes. The blue is the amenity space, the community space, and the red is the retail space. When it's striped like that, that means there's a ground floor with one use and above that another use. So in these stripes, this ground floor blue could be a preschool, could be a daycare, could be a nursery school. RHA is having conversations with partners who might want to do something as large as 8,000, 9,000 square feet to provide that preschool. Shops, we know that historically, South Street and a little bit of Saunders was the African-American, part of the African-American business corridor. So we have incubator business spaces, shops, along south, and that's what you see, sort of the ground floor shops with apartments above and offer that opportunity to the community. And then other community spaces and service spaces as parts of the other buildings. And all of these forming blocks, right, where you've got a place to park in the back of your home, but you've got tree-lined streets, and at the middle of the community, you have a gathering space. You have a plaza, place where you could have the farmer's market, where you could have block parties. And parks, we had great discussions with folks about community gardens and other kind of park spaces, recreation spaces, and paths to connect all of that. And different kinds of buildings too, different kinds of parking as well. So parking lots, and then the more homes we add, people have cars, so we're adding cars, and some of that goes in garages. So there are a couple of things happening on the site that we talked about on Monday. There are technical utility issues. There's also discussion with the city about changing that big ramp loop behind Heritage Park where NOK and Dawson meet. If some of those things start to happen together, it could create more opportunity for Heritage Park on this. So these blocks look about the same. Again, the central gathering space, the mix of apartments and family types, the streets that allow you to connect but don't have cut throughs. So here you see an offset. We talked a lot about encouraging connectedness, but discouraging cut throughs and opening up the neighborhood to everybody to zip on through. But we could get, if we get some more land, we get more opportunity for some more housing and some more amenity space. So what we looked at previously was about 550 new homes. This is about 750 homes. The previous scheme had about 20,000 square feet of this, again, daycare, shops, amenity resources. This had a little bit more than that of 22,000. And then this final scheme says, what if we get all those utilities relocated in cooperation and partnership with the city, and we get the land that is just sort of cloverleaf land for the interchange now, similar to what happened in Peace that middle stuff this way. And this gets us up to actually 975 in the program. So this is a 975 new home opportunity with 25,000 square feet of that additional space. So the more homes you get, the more of that additional community and amenity space that you can support. But some things hold true to all of the plans. And that's this central place for the community to come together. That's the mix of different housing types, apartment buildings with elevators, seniors who prefer that model, and homes for families with less of that kind of stuff. So those are sort of abstracted, again, site plans. It's how we think and how we can measure and understand and touch the difference between the 550 or the 750. But I want to start to get your imagination thinking about what does that really look like? What does that really feel like? in your experience. So here is a view today in a Heritage Park looking from about, pretend you're hovering in a drone above Dorothea Dix Park and looking back towards downtown. Again, the odd number of buildings, the even number of buildings, the community center closest up to downtown. What do those plans that we were just looking like, what could they look like in this relation? We can also see that this feels very different than surrounding area, just in its view, right? There's lots of new things happening right across the street, and we've had conversation about those too. And concern about, well, is there a 20-story tower going to come on to Heritage Park? This is what we're talking. That mix kind of apartment buildings, family buildings, the plaza, the park, and the scale of those, and how they relate to each other and start to make a neighborhood for more affordable housing opportunity, more amenity, more community space in the brand new homes to meet today's need and affordable housing. And we can zoom in a little bit, and what does that plaza look like if I was standing on the street? So you can imagine the block parties here, or the DJ events, or the farmers market, the community coming together. Again, surrounded by family homes and different kinds of apartments. But it's a place where people can come together. It's a place at the heart of the community. It's a place that supports the safety and security and diversity and connectedness of the community. And here's a look down South Street. We talk about some of those shops and kind of business opportunities. These would be small scale, 750,000 square feet, maybe 1,500 square feet, business opportunities for residents to have incubator businesses in us. Those are on the ground floor of these buildings, looking down the hill into the community with the apartments above. Are some of them 4 stories, or some of them 3 stories, or some of them even up to 5 stories, but never in this kind of 1-story that we notice is happening in this. So hopefully those views start to give you an idea of what the place could be. And so those are artists' renderings. We wanted to zoom in to some of the places in that plan and sort of show you again the rendering version of that, but also some real live precedents from other places that might help you imagine what they could be. So on that plaza that we just looked at the rendering here, what are other plazas like that? This is a senior, this is an affordable apartment building in Washington, D.C. that we worked on. This is a senior building right across the street from it, and it all gathers around that plaza. They have free block parties there 3 or 4 times a year. Here's that one. Again, that plaza, that neighborhood center in the middle of the plan. That shop view that we were looking at. So shops on the ground floor, even amenity spaces, the building, public housing revitalization in Milwaukee that we're working on with those kinds of shops. This is a daycare in the ground floor of a building. This is sort of those shop that, again, the idea of shops on the floor of the park. And some of the open spaces, so the park spaces where you can just hang out, throw the ball around, and there'll be some community gardens, and there'll be the farmers market for the opportunities, and again, just to sort of help visualize what those spaces, what those places could be sort of new. And then into the apartment buildings. So some of the apartment buildings, and these are just ideas of some of those and some sketches that we did this week. What does that bigger shape kind of look like? What character could it look like at the 5-story, 4-story, and the lower scales? And then the family type homes, those yellow shapes on the site plan. At 3 stories, there might even be some 2 stories in there that you see the individual doors, the family goes into that home. with their own increase, so it's not the shared kind of elevator corridor building we talked about previously. So that is what we wanted to show, and I know a lot of these drawings are going to be hard to see from sitting back at the table, but we want to have an opportunity for some questions and answers. First, we've also heard, we've listened and heard a lot of questions about what is the timeline, what happens next. So I just want to, before we get into the questions and answers, I wanted to go over this with a very high level. So here we are in January of 2024. I think it's still January. It's been a month. As we move into the spring, we're gonna again continue to listen. We'll take your feedback from tonight. We'll be back in March with incorporating that feedback, find out some more about the plan, look at some of the numbers and technical issues. So we'll be back in the late spring to continue the input and really kick off, gear up the process with the city. So what city approvals do we need to make some of these visions happen? We've had these conversations with the city, but now there's something to react to. We'll begin that process at the same time that we're talking about that plan approval process. And that takes several months, right? That could take into the probably 6 to 8 months is what we're anticipating. In the fall and the winter of 2024, it's identifying and seeking out the financial structure and how this is paid for. And then in the fall of 2025, so we're talking about a year and a half from now, essentially, that's when those dollars get financed your and construction, physical activities will start for the new homes on Heritage Park. And then in the fall of 2027, again, we're talking about some time here to figure it all out. Nothing's happening tomorrow. The fall of 2027 would be the timeline for sort of the first move-ins to the new home. So that seems like a long time, but it gives us all the opportunity to get ready for that, to anticipate it, to shape it, and to move on. And with that, we want to open it up to some questions and answers. Hopefully we'll have a lot of Q&A about the physical plan and the master planning and the placemaking, and we can answer those. And maybe others will need to answer questions that I and our team can. So I think. Oh, sorry. So I started out with some thank yous, but did not acknowledge some folks. So we want to acknowledge Councilwoman Stormy Forte, who's joined us and has been with us throughout the process. Thank you. And I hate to put you on the spot, Stormy, but would you like to say anything? Say a few words, perhaps?
Always happy to hear, the board here, but we have to say about the project, certainly for the opportunities and the training for housing, these morning, with these community leaders who were present about the two days to the housing. So it's really the forefront of everybody's mind, so it's very positive in the
Thank you.
I'd also like to just acknowledge the paper access. He has provided paper for us this June. And very quickly, our office from so like the form of paper has been done by business with barbecue review. So we try to remind you that we use the knowledge from he's done.
So we'll take questions from the floor. I'm going to ask Terrell to help. He's going to walk around with the walk around mic. We'll answer from up here. Do this for about 15 minutes or until about quarter of, and then we'll we'll have an opportunity, we'll have probably 3 stations set up. That corner, this corner, and the back corner back here to come up and look at drawings closely and talk to us one-on-one. So get a.
My quick question is, how would the new, southern corridor and western corridor BRT that's gonna be coming to that area affect the development?
So the question's about the BRT and how does that happen? It happens in a couple of places, and I'll just use this view that's up here. A couple of places close by and adjacent. Go ahead.
Hey Murphy,
Yep.
some people may not know what BRT stands for.
Ah.
What it is.
Okay. So the bus rapid transit is what BRT stands for, and it is an additional kind of bus service to the bus service that you have now that goes further out and has fewer stops and more dedicated lanes, so the buses can go quicker. And the idea from the city, and this happens in lots of places, is to connect people to jobs with that bus system. So we know that the bus today, and we've had lots of conversations with you and the residents about the bus, that it's pretty good service on Saunders. It's pretty good service on South, where there hasn't been a time all week that we've gone by either of those bus stops where people weren't waiting for the bus. So it tells me it's used pretty well, and that's service that's in place today. The BRT, this bus rapid transit bus to get you there quicker, to get you there bit further out, is happening through downtown, and it also happens along MLK. One of the stops, the planned stops in its early kind of engineering and planning through the city is right about here. So the BRT, so you would have an opportunity right on the edge of Heritage Park to connect to that bus rapid transit that takes you west out MLK. On the opposite side, over on the Dorothea Dix section and west of Saunders, the BRT stop will go eastbound. So there's a BRT right adjacent, and we think that that can be a great opportunity and asset. It does not come into Heritage Park, but it's adjacent, and the idea of some of these connections and paths are to get people to that in addition to the bus service you already have on Saunders and on South.
Thank you.
All right, I know there's got to be some other questions out there. And I forget if I said this, but we're at 8:15, we'll do the raffle. So we've got people that have signed up for the raffle, but at some point during our kind of breakout, we'll come back and do the raffle at 8:15 and see what online questions we might be able to answer.
Thank you, Murphy. So I asked 2 of our young kings if they would provide some input, because I would like to acknowledge them and their mother. They have been here every night this week, and I appreciate that. And so Zakir and Jalen have listened very intently. And I don't want to say I had to bribe them, but I did tell them I would give some Girl Scout cookies. If they would be as so kind to share what they thought about their current community of Heritage Park, what they think might be lacking, because while we have all lifted our voices as adults, it is very important to hear from our kids, from our children. And so I want to encourage them to please stand up, Zakir and Jay, and please provide some input on what, and you share some very good feedback with me when we got started, okay? Okay, so stand up. So this is. I'm sorry.
Heritage Park is good. It's like, it's big, it's fun to be around sometimes, but like now there isn't like nothing to play with. A lot of kids have nothing to do, and like, it's just not much to do for us while we're outside. We just need more things to do, to play around and have more fun.
That's what you look like for the designers here, Rob, Howard, okay?
I think that it should be like more slides and stuff, because some kids, when they come outside, they have nothing to do, because they don't have like basketballs and the utilities to play around. So we would like to get like slides, more basketballs, and new nets, basketball.
That's great. And things you don't, yeah. Things you might not need to bring your own equipment, like you said, your own basketball and things. So did I also hear you guys, when you were with us in the community center, talking about making sure there were things for kids of all ages to do? That sometimes you'll have a program and then you get too old for that program, but there's not a next one. So that I think was an important thing that we heard from you this morning.
This is good information right here. So we're gonna manifest and believe. Did I understand that one of you may have an interest in being an architect? Who said it? A lawyer? Oh. Leave it up to an architect. From an engineer.
In response to the comments on the unmade, can you show on the site where some of these things that they're requesting could be?
Sure, I'll go back to the kind of site plan so you can start to see those. But you can see sort of this park space where you could imagine just throwing a ball or hanging out. We've got the basketball courts, some of like the playground and top lot equipment could be, they were showing ideas of that in here. We have all of this green space, community garden. We had some really nice conversations with some community garden folks, and that's something that kids and adults and people of all ages can do. So that's some of the variety. And again, you could imagine sort of dance contests or a block party, those kinds of things at the plaza. And some of the activities would happen in the buildings too, right? So you can imagine a brand new kind of community center space with even more great activity and things to do than at Heritage Park in some of these places. But all of that green is kind of outdoor space meant to be activated and used and delivered for the Heritage Park residents.
I got a question. My question is, we've seen 3 plans with 3 different capacities. Who's gonna make the determination as to which capacity the facility is going to hold? And how soon in the process will they know which one of these plans, will the community know which one of these plans will be implemented?
Great question. So the 3 schemes, again, they have different capacities, right? They have different yields, but they also have similarities, right? So the differences between the schemes are whether or not we can work with the city and the state to change the intersection at Dawson and MLK is one variable, right? One thing that could change. And then also whether we can work with Raleigh Water to move the stormwater and the sanitary. So in this scheme, we say none of that happens, and this would be the base scheme. And so, but a key component is that those constraints, those opportunities all happen on the east side. So the west side is the same in all 3 of these schemes. So we're having those conversations now. Is the water a possibility? Is the interchange a possibility? That doesn't happen overnight. The conversations are good and productive, but it'll take a while to get through that. But we could start at this end, and that doesn't change any of it. I would say that on the water issue itself, that's one we would have to get further down a decision in the next 3 months. This is something they're moving on to already improve the facility. So we would need an answer on that fairly quickly. By the time we get to the point where we're going into the city to ask for the zoning, the approval of what's gonna be built, we would need to know what that is. So within the next 6 months, we need to decide which scheme or how much of the extra land or the other land that we could possibly get. Knowing that on the west side, our proposal is the same and we could start working that out right away. Ms. Jeffers?
I haven't been to any of the meetings, so I want to ask, will the community be keyless, gated? The one that y'all.
So the question is about, will the community be gated? We are not, this scale, you don't see that, but we are not proposing gates. Gates do two things, right? They keep people out, but it also keeps people in. When I see the fencing on the south side of Heritage Park now, and even along Dawson, part of it's protection, but part of it, I think, is a barrier between. So safety and security as part of the vision, but not a gated kind of community where you need to, show a card to get in and out. That's not something that we're proposing here. And part of it might have to do with the shops. Part of it might have to do with the amenities. Like if this daycare happens, it's probably not just for Heritage Park residents. You might have people from other affordable housing, other RHA communities, other places in the city using that, and asking them to go through the gate to drop the preschooler off is probably not something we wanted to do. And that everybody can use the shops. You're not hindering the business of the shops. But does that answer your question? And do you have a follow-up?
I do, because it still sounds like, okay, we're going for safety. Okay, if you have kids, you could run into where you have issues with some fathers or some mothers or whatever want to come and get kids that don't have the right to come get kids. The people there don't know they don't have the right. So then you got an issue there where they can just come on the premises with no problem. That's what I'm saying. That's the only reason I asked that, as far as the safety of whoever you're talking about or whatever. It's a lot more in depth than just having a daycare.
Yep.
And you have people that have issues with parental problems and stuff, not everybody, but some.
Yep.
And so that's one reason I asked. Then another reason we have an issue with a lot of people that come on to the premises and live out there in the open. And, they're homeless, we haven't had a lease, but we used to have real babies. And so that's one reason why I asked about gating, so they can't come on and just live the way they want, anybody. Not just homeless, anybody, who go out there that don't need to be there. But when stuff get done, you don't know who doing what.
Right. I hear you, and so the safety and security part of it absolutely needs to be taken care of. I think there are lots of ways to do that, and a gate doesn't necessarily guarantee that either. So our commitment should be to work on all of those issues and address the safety and security, and we know that it's, of the top 5 parts of the vision, and what's the best way to do that. And I can imagine gates in some places and fences in some places, but not, I have a hard time imagining that kind of all around, because I think, again, that sort of says, this is a other place. This is not part of Raleigh. This is not part of Fourth Ward. But we should continue this conversation. Now we gotta have some more. There we go. Charles, you give me the time. I asked,
I'm
make sure I don't keep talking. Ashley has a question.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to acknowledge that I don't go rogue. I do have people who oversee me, and that's our board of commissioners. We have Yolanda Winstead over here. Could you raise your hand? Eric Ron has been,
He's online.
vice chair, has been here.
He's online. Eric,
Oh, that's right, Eric's online.
Greg is online.
Earlier, he thought he might not be able to, as well as Greg Warren. And I want to thank them for their dedication, for their volunteer work. I get paid, they don't, so thanks to them.
That's great. And maybe while you're thinking about your last couple questions for this sort of back and forth, if I could ask the Torty Gallis and Mosley team, to maybe start to set up the stations, yeah. And thank you for all of this, right? So, and what I really invite is come up and talk to us, come up and look at it closer. We can see where the playgrounds are, answer some of those questions. And have more kind of one-on-one. So we'll do that, for till about 8:15 or so, come back and have the raffle, see if we want to continue the discussion, and then come to next steps. Yes, Bridget? And there's not just dinner, there's dessert, so we got Girl Scout cookies in the back too. So I also wanted to thank Arts Together, who's been a great participant in talking about the services and giving back to the community, and also having something to keep the kids occupied and engaged during these meetings. So thank you. Okay, thank you all for joining us, especially congratulations to all the winners. We did get a series of questions, through the online participation. Very good questions. Some of them are very detailed. So we're going to take these questions. We'll have answers within 24 hours and we will upload them to the website. And just to remind everybody what that website is to get information about Heritage Park. It's here up on the screen. Take a picture of it if you want to come by and talk to us. All right. Thank you, everybody.